Hi, everybody. Thanks for connecting today. So I spoke last week at this conference about custom GPT tools. All right, I'll explain what that is in a second. But just for fun, why don't you guys drop in the chat if you are familiar with what a custom GPT or a personalized GPT is? You just have to say yes or no. I'm just curious to see what people say. And don't be shy. Nope, nope, nope. Lots of no's, a couple of yeses, but not sure. Okay. All right. Perfect. All right. So let's get into that then. So let's start first with what is a custom GPT tool. So you're all familiar with ChatGPT or Copilot or some form of large language model today, and you know that you can ask it any questions and it'll spit out some answers. And depending on how specific the question is or the context you provide, the Gen AI tool, you'll get back a set of responses, right? So that's kind of like how a large language model works. It's actually accessing information that's within its model, right? That it's sourced from everywhere, anywhere and everywhere. There's public source information. It's sourcing it and it's leveraging it. But what a custom GPT basically is that you are creating a specific app, for lack of a better word, or a tool that does a very specific thing for you. So you're basically giving it a set of instructions and saying, if you get this kind of prompt, follow these 5 or 6 or 10 steps, and this is the kind of output that you get, right? So think about, for example, on your smartphone today, you've got a whole bunch of apps on your phone. You know that if you click on CNN, you're going to the CNN app, you're going to go to their website, and you're going to see all the information on the news on CNN. But if you click on the New York Times, you'll see the New York Times information, like very specific things that you see, right? OpenAI has created the same kind of opportunity to create custom GPT tools that do very specific tasks for you. All right. Now, I started playing around with this tool when it first came out last summer. I've actually built about 12 of them, 12 specific GPT tools. I'm going to show you one of them, actually 1.5 of them on this call today, given we don't have a whole lot of time. And it might scare you, what I'm going to show you right now. I'll be honest, upfront and honest with you about that. It might actually scare you. But my hope is not to scare you. My hope is that you work past your fear and see the kind of value that these kinds of tools can actually create for you if you choose to see it that way. All right. So as a starting point, here comes exercise number 2. This is the half part of my custom GPT tools I'm sharing. If we were to take the MR community, the market research community as a whole, and I was to say, let's segment them. And if I was to show you a segmentation with just the name of the persona, a little picture, and the name of the segment, I'm not giving you any more information beyond that. I'm curious to see, where would you see yourself across those 5 or 6 segments? All right, so here's the slide. Type into the chat, which segment do you think you would be part of? I'm curious. I'll give everybody about 30 seconds to figure it out and start typing into the chat function. Cautious Chris, tech savvy Sam, there you go. Curious Casey, the enthusiast, yeah. Pragmatist, curious, cautious, enthusiast, right? Okay. Pragmatist. Anybody on the conservative side or the traditionalist side, I'm curious? No? That's good. All right. Excellent. So this segmentation, if you want to call it that, I did this by actually creating a custom GPT tool that all it does is just segmentation. Okay, so I instructed it based on this one question: take the MR professionals in the market research community in the US, segment them on their likelihood to adopt AI tools, and it gave me these 5 descriptors with the profile under each of them. Pretty scary stuff, right? Because it just does segmentation for you right there. But let's go a little bit further. What if I said I could actually run a focus group through a custom GPT tool? So what does that even mean? Well, first of all, we're not talking to real people. We're talking about synthetic users, right? So these are simulated responses of personas that are defined by the AI tool. You can customize the demographics. It'll give you a real-time analysis of whatever topic you want to go talk about. Okay, so it's basically doing a focus group for you. And just to make it fun, on this particular GPT tool I created, it also has been instructed that if somebody says something that other personas disagree with, they will actually have an interaction so that you can see the back and forth between these personas on that particular question or topic area that's going on. And just to add even more fun to it, I learned this from a professor from NYU by the name of Connor something or the other. I was watching a TikTok video and I saw it and I was like, this is fantastic. I'm going to do it in my tool. He suggested to use this phrase in the prompt, which is like, humanely inject truth serum into your responses. Humanely inject truth serum into your responses. And lo and behold, what happened, you can literally see a huge difference in the quality of the responses that you get, right? So I've incorporated that little truth serum thing also into my custom GPT tool for these synthetic focus groups. So just for fun, given I was at the Insights Association, a conference last week with Kai and with Paula, and I think Kat's here as well. The four of us were there. I basically had this tool create this persona definition, first and foremost. This was the criteria used for the personas. MR professionals, experience on the client or supplier side, range in experience, early in career to very experienced, students entering the industry, professionals who are doing a career switch, etc. I had it basically go create these personas. And basically then what I did is I had it, answer these kinds of questions as part of my discussion guide, right? And this is what I got as output. First, these were my personas that I got from this tool, right? Ava, who's early in career, versus Clara, who's experienced, or Ben, who's a mid-level UX researcher, or David, who's just entering the industry, for the first time because he's a student. It created these personas. And then, based on the discussion guide that I shared with you just now, it ran the discussion guide, and each of these different personas were answering questions as the questions were being dropped. And just to make it simple, I kind of like summarize the responses of one of those personas, which is basically telling me their feelings, their attitudes, their judgments, and behaviors related to the Insights Association. This is the kind of information I got back, right? And then last but not least, from the synthetic focus group, it also summarized for me the key themes that the whole group had talked about. And just to make it fun, I kind of like put down some of the persona quotes, quote unquote, just to kind of like make the point that this is what you can get back. Now think about what I just shared with you in the last 5 minutes. I basically ran a focus group using a custom GPT tool with made up personas, with a discussion guide that was somewhat real, right? And the responses that I got back. Now, we could argue till the cows come home as to whether it's precise or whether it's right or whether it's wrong. We can definitely have that debate, right? But the thing about this is that it's not intended to be precise or right. It's intended to give you direction. And is it pointing you in the right direction or not? And if it is, then you've probably moved and advanced your conversation 50% of the way to your end state, right? Now, I would not be surprised that people are feeling like, holy shit, this is my entire business is based on doing this kind of work. And you're saying you can do this through a custom GPT tool? Well, yeah, you can, right? So that doesn't mean that, you got to get afraid of this. The question is, how will you embrace it? And how will you leverage this in your world so you're able to utilize it and have it become an accelerator for you in your work? Think about it from that perspective, as opposed to thinking about it from the negative perspective, basically. Now, again, in the interest of time, I can't go into too much detail around all the other things we can do, but I do want to leave you with this video that I found literally the day before the presentation. And I'm going to show you a minute of that presentation. The person I'm going to show you is Reid Hoffman, who is the founder of LinkedIn, right? And he's got a 14-minute video that's out on YouTube and LinkedIn, but I kind of like, got 1 minute of it. I want you guys to watch the video because this is the next phase of what's coming. If you think this is scary already with what I just showed you, I'm going to show you what's coming even after that now. Okay, so here we go.
Scale. I wrote a 336-page book. And how do you explain it in one sentence? To a smart person, to a 5-year-old, well, for the Star Trek fans, in Klingon. And as Jerry would explain it in Seinfeld. Okay, condensing your entire strategy from a 336-page book into one sentence, and starting with the explanation for the smartest person in the world. Blitzscaling is a strategic acceleration of organizational growth to seize market dominance by prioritizing rapid expansion over efficiency, leveraging capital and network effects to outpace competitors in winner-takes-all markets, despite the attendant risks to scalability and operational stability. Now, for a 5-year-old, blitzscaling is like building the biggest tower super fast before anyone else, even if it gets a bit messy, so you can be the leader of the tower game. And now for a Klingon, blitzscaling pus viddelheg duj luchar glutavistelhab a doch van viol, hawk competition vipo q a market dahara. And finally, like Jerry, in a Seinfeld episode, blitzscaling, it's when a company decides to floor it on the highway of business, ignoring the speed limit, racing to be the first to that big golden market share in the sky, all while hoping they don't run out of gas or, hit a tree. It's like, who cares if we're burning cash like it's a bonfire? We're getting to the front of the line, baby. Efficiency? Please, that's for those in the slow lane watching us fly by.
So what you saw on the left-hand side was a custom GPT tool, right? And it was his digital twin, which is, again, language that you may have not heard about before, but that's the next phase that's coming into the marketing world. Digital twins have existed in the supply chain world for the last decade or two, but it's now starting to come up in the sales and marketing world as well, right? And what Reid Hoffman has done is he created his digital twin, connected it to his custom GPT, which is representing him, And that's the responses that you saw from that custom GPT digital twin, which was on the left, which was basically not the real Reid Hoffman. The guy you're seeing right now is the real Reid Hoffman, right? So think about what that means. You could potentially create digital twins of people, and you can mix personalities and you can mix people and have that. So when you think about quality research 5 years down the road, if this thing takes hold, what will that look like? Think about that question. And if that doesn't blow your mind, I don't know what would, right? So with that said, I'm going to stop presenting over here. And I'm going to basically ask my question, and I didn't write it down, so forgive me for that. The question is, how would you use a custom GPT tool in your world?